Welcome to the Nonprofit Corner podcast with your host, Dr. Victoria Boyd. Hi, I'm Dr. Victoria Boyd, your host for the Nonprofit Corner podcast. And I'm so excited because our guest today is just full of information and wonderful tips and strategies that you can help make your nonprofit even more powerful. Maryanne Dersch is going to be with me in just a second, and I look forward to having her on the show. And we are back with the Nonprofit Corner podcast with Dr. Victoria Boyd and my special guest, Maryanne Dersch. Hi, Maryanne.
Hi, it's so great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. I read your bio, and my goodness, you just have a ton of experience, but generally, just to give our viewers and listeners some backgrounds to make you feel real. What was the path that really got you into the whole nonprofit sector and all of the things you do as a consultant and a coach, a teacher, a strategist? Oh my God.
That's a wonderful question to start with. And I'm happy to share, to get to know the listener. I've always worked in nonprofit. I was an advertising major in college and a social justice warrior. And this is true. This was like way back in the 80s. And this girl I was in class with, she goes, "What are you going to do with all this social activism and advertising?" And I thought, that's a stupid question. I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then I realized, because I really didn't care whether I love the creativity, I love the marketing, but I didn't really care if you bought Miller or Budweiser. Like, sorry, Dad, because my dad worked for AB his whole life. I wasn't passionate, and I really realized very young in my life that I needed to care about what I was doing. Some people can, but that was just me, right?
Absolutely.
I needed to care, and
I get it. I'm right here with you.
I was able to translate the skills that I had and the things that I love to do into the nonprofit space, and marketing and communications. And then for 16 years, I worked for a wonderful company called 1 Creative, where I did, strategy, messaging. And from those experiences, I wrote my book, Courageous Communication. And really just looking at what made some of the things we did work and some of them not work, right? Like how did organizations really step into their like marketing power? So that kind of led me to the path. But I want to just say everyone has a COVID pivot, right? Like everyone, right? Everyone has a COVID pivot. My COVID pivot was I started my company and I'm working with organizations on messaging, and I'm sort of wanting to reverse engineer these principles that I saw that were helpful to have inside the marketing, which is like understanding how to stand in my value, navigating praise and criticism, right? Because if you're going to say something interesting or important, somebody's not going to like it, right? How do you like really have a bold message? Well, to have a bold message means you have to have the confidence to stand behind that message. So that I was working with people more about gaining that confidence so they could step into that more authentic message. Yes. Right. And so that when COVID hit and a lot of the projects I was working on went on pause, and my coach, I was explaining this to her. She goes, "Why don't you just teach people what you want them to know?" And I'm like, "Oh, I could do that."
Absolutely. Hey, my passion is education, teaching, coach, and training.
Yeah.
I was in the education system for 32 years. I taught dance. And so, concurrent to that, I was president, executive director. I formed, merged, and closed nonprofits. And so I was always in the sector, but I was not 100% involved in it. It was more of the hobby point. But I saw so often things that were missing from an organizational standpoint. And I'm glad you mentioned marketing, because I think many nonprofits devalue marketing or don't look at it serious enough. They talk about, we need fundraising. No, you need marketing in order to do the fundraising.
Yep.
And
how do you think those donors are going to find you?
Right? Awareness. And so that's what my Super Donor Challenge was about. How to create all of these people who might be interested, how to attract them and how to retain them and how to keep that messaging, that communication plan going so
Yes.
that they become engaged. And it sounds like you and I have the same philosophy of what
Yes.
we need to do. Of
It's a pipeline,
yeah,
right? And marketing, and so it's all a pipeline. I have other pipeline: awareness, interest, connection, action. I know in that if you're building awareness and interest, right, to see who wants to have a greater connection and who might be moved to action. And it is all a flow. And in fact, one of the clients that I'm working with right now, I'm working with their mission advancement and communications team to work together more effectively to build that pipeline, because they were sort of like, one was doing this and one was doing this, and they
yeah,
really weren't. And so the the marketing was stirring up a lot of interest that wasn't getting translated into donor leads,
yeah.
which
And
seems really obvious, but I think I think it happens all the time. And I do think marketing is devalued because good marketing looks easy,
yeah,
right? Good marketing is like,
looks,
oh, it
looks.
looks easy, but right? It's clear and concise is always harder to get to than,
Yeah.
convoluted and vague, right?
And most nonprofits, they just want you to hand them a plan. Just give us, I call it the journey. What is that journey for these prospects, attracting them, first getting them, I'm using business terms, in that funnel. And then how are you going to guide them through the steps that you want
Yep.
to
Yep.
take to be engaged? And it's all in the communications that follows you getting them at least interested in what you're doing. So
Right.
absolutely.
And so what I learned is that to communicate effectively externally, you first need to communicate effectively internally. And to communicate effectively internally is to understand how your thoughts and feelings contribute to your everyday decision making. So my work got more and more personal because that's where I saw the gap was,
Yeah.
right? Because I can write you a beautiful message. But if, right, I said, if you can't stand behind that, or if it triggers your imposter syndrome, or then there's not going to be the support to really grab that. And that's what's like, why did sometimes
Yep.
the work stuck and then it didn't? And it was because of that internal. So that's like, then my work became more and more about how to stand in your own value, right? How I call it staying sovereign, how to stay sovereign no matter what's going on, so that you have the confidence then to market, to present yourself individually authentically, so that you can present your organization authentically, because it takes
Absolutely.
courage to be authentic,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? To show it all,
Yeah.
right? To like, here we are, instead of trying to convince people
And
to
that's what
care.
donors want. They want this you to be authentic.
We all want it. We
You know,
all want it.
yeah.
Mhm.
And do you ever call that whole, I call it philanthropic culture, where you're building an internal culture of understanding what your values and goals are and how to communicate them? That's the tagline I put on it, as a philanthropic culture, because
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it is building a culture of philanthropy, of valuing that relationship building. Because when you said, "Oh, can't you just like, you know, get us some marketing, like, or I don't give us like," it's a culture.
it's
It's a process. It's a commitment.
yeah. And even when they use the engagement, they call it engagement continuum, where they have first time donors and sustain, and it goes up until you have that legacy thing. All of those values are based on how much a person gives. But shouldn't that continuum be based on how they're engaging and how
Yes,
to increase that engagement?
yes,
And so
yes.
that
Oh,
framework that I switched to was that continuum is not about how much they give, because you should treat all of them the same, equally, but it's the communication to build them so that their engagement level rises all the way to super donor, as I call them.
yes. If you don't want fundraising to feel transactional, stop treating it like a transaction. And right. So if I'm only valuing people for how much they give, I'm missing out on how frequently, for how long. Like if I'm geographically based, how far away,
Yeah.
like all of those, that's engagement. How they may not give a lot, but they come to every event, or right, or they're a
But they might
social
have only
media,
given $25.
or they're a social media champion,
Yeah,
right? They're
but they
posting and
show up.
sharing everything. Yeah, they show up in other ways.
We're getting all excited here.
No, it is. And when we look at that, it's just we've been taught to play one game.
Yeah.
And that game is how much.
Yeah.
And so that game no longer, I don't think, serves us as well,
Absolutely.
as really looking at, you know, the community that we're creating, and there's all different roles and ways to participate in that community.
And value all of them. Okay,
Yeah.
this has been great. We're going to take a real quick break right now, and we will be right back. Nonprofit Corner Podcast. You can find the Nonprofit Corner Podcast on the TPF network on YouTube and also other focused resources. And welcome back. Here we are with Maryanne Dersch. Okay, you sent me a question. How to ask for what you want without feeling rejected, ineffective, or pushy. I
Yeah.
get that feeling all the time.
I know.
You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
give us some background on that question that you're posing.
All right. Well, you know, especially asking for money, but really asking for anything,
Anything.
can trigger a lot of uncomfortable feelings. And the thing, people would say, oh, I don't want to feel pushy, or oh, I don't know, what if they say no? And again, remember how our thoughts and feelings contribute to our everyday decision making. We may not pick up that phone, or we might not send that email because we're afraid of what's on the other side of it. Right. And so that often keeps us stuck or bound into not really stepping into our power and harnessing the resources. I believe, and I bet you do too, like in abundance. There's enough out there for all of us. It's just a matter of tapping into it.
Yep.
Right. And coming from that place of, standing in my value and wanting to create real relationships. And so, and doing that in a way that's aligned, authentic, energizing, instead of like, I should, I gotta call this person. Like that's
And
not
that's
that's not
putting
helpful.
bad, I call it juju, out in
Yeah,
the
that's bad
universe.
vibes, man.
Yeah, you got to come
I
with
I
the mindset that, wow, this is something great.
yes.
And I'm something great.
I love words, but energy speaks louder than words. And no, we're conscious of what we're going to say. No, we make our, but how are we showing up? What
Yep.
is the energetic like? I call it the undefended queen. I'm the queen. I'm the sovereign one. Whatever you say is fine. And so let me get back to your question, because that is like really what I teach people is the art of influence, which means getting people who have no authority over to do what you want them to do, and in a way that they choose to do it. They're excited to do it. It's not like I have to, I need to, I get to, I choose to. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Tell me more. That is the energy of choice. And from there, right, that's how we want to connect with people. So it's releasing and helping to understand why, feeling rejected, ineffective, or pushy, how to navigate those feelings, but then also how to enroll people in a vision. And if it's not the right vision, let them go.
Let them go. You can't force things on people. That and that taps into, there's plenty of fish in this sea. It's not just small buckets that you're working with. If you use the right strategies, you're going to attract the right people. And a lot of it does have to do with your energy. I'm going to go to one of your questions. Remove barriers and blocks that are keeping you from asking for what you want.
Mm-hmm. Well, so the barriers and blocks, again, are around the fear of what will happen if we do.
Yeah.
Let's say, and we ask a friend and they say, yeah, or no. And now it's weird, right? Like, or they say yes, but they don't really want to, right? So the blocks and barriers are often because we want two things we can't have, which is certainty and control.
Yeah.
Right? We can't have those things. So when we release the need to do that, there's two main principles here that really can unlock those things. One is, and this is the foundation of my work, is you can't make people care. My job is not to make people care, because you can't. That's me requiring you to be different. Like, I want to change you in order for you to care. And it doesn't work, because why we care is about our own lived experiences,
Personal.
right? Our own, I call it the philanthropic heart. What's in my philanthropic heart, what's in your, for like, your art and dance and all, like what's in my philanthropic heart, right? of all the things that made up my life is I'm attracted to one. So I'm looking for an organization that I can see myself in. So the marketing, the messaging, our connections are not to make somebody care. It's to be strong in our value and our mission, to connect like-minded people. Hey, right? If this connects with you, let's talk about it. If not, that's totally okay.
Your tribe. You got to find your tribe.
And you can't, and what makes marketing, fundraising, everything hard is when you're trying to make somebody do something. That's where the pushy gets involved, right? That's where the ineffective comes in, because nobody wants to get pushed on, right? Nobody wants to get pushed on. So once I understand that my job is not to make people care, my job is to connect with like-minded people. And then the second biggest thing is what I call release the outcome. And if there's one thing that I would invite everyone to consider, we let go of the outcome. Because here's the thing, everything's created by desire, right? Like there's a desire. So with desire, if I'm afraid I'm not going to get what I want, that means we're operating under fear. I have to get this because I'm afraid not to have it, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Or the desire of curiosity. I wonder what would happen if,
Yeah.
right? Oh, hey, maybe I'll call this. So and the curiosity creates possibility. So when we release the outcome, I don't need you to do anything. When I work with boards, I tell them, you can't mess this up. You don't have to do, and you don't have to make it. All you have to do is, like, if there's a connection, great, send the name over. If not, that's okay too. And they're like, really? That's yes. And when I see people for who they are, not who I want them to be, people feel seen and heard, and people will buy, quote unquote, buy to the level they feel seen and heard. Right?
Yes.
And so my job is not to pitch, sell, convince, make a case. My job is to release the outcome and see people for who they are. If there's a fit, great. If not, that's okay too. It was so great to know you.
Absolutely.
And that's it. And it's as simple as that. And that when we operate with under those two principles, I am looking for like-minded people, and I release any attachment to the outcome of this. You wind up making incredible connections.
Yes.
In the possibilities that you've never even imagined, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what I work with folks on, is really standing. But again, the queen, right? My sovereignty is no matter what happens, right? I retain my power. So I don't need somebody a board member to act a certain way, or a donor to act a certain way to make me feel good.
No.
Right. I control that. And they don't get to tell me that I'm good at what I do or not. I can. So when I stay in that sovereignty and I release the attachment to the outcome, because I don't want to operate under fear, I want to operate under curiosity. That's when the magic happens.
Absolutely.
And so then you wind up enrolling people in a vision. And then here's the thing, people are like, they're going to be asking you, oh my gosh, how can I help? Tell me more.
Right.
They're going to be asking you.
Yes, absolutely. And I love the term enrolling in a vision.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about communicating that vision. And like you said, if it's their same vision, wonderful, great. Keep that conversation going, build the relationship, and draw them in. But you have to have that synchronicity between the asker and the listener. So
Exactly.
absolutely. I really love this next question though.
Okay.
Because I talk about it all the time. It's about that avatar. Really hear what donors want and respond in a meaningful way. In order to hear what they want, you have to know them, understand them. And so give us your take on that.
All right. So in knowing them and understanding them is less about, and because I see this a lot in the marketing communications. We did this, we did that, we're so great, da 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 da. It's, I understand what motivates my folks. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm an animal I foster dogs, and so if somebody says, oh, we fostered this many dogs, that's great. But if somebody says to me, we know how much you care about animals in our community, we know like they're speaking to me, right? They're speaking to my heart. And it's not, we did this, we did that. That's transactional. So there's a big principle that I think is important here, and it's the medicine and the cure. So people want the cure. They don't care about the medicine, but we tend as marketers, because this is our work, to talk about the medicine. But people will swallow any medicine if the cure is strong enough. They don't care about your operations. It's just how you make them feel.
Yep.
Right. You feel a part of this community, that you feel connected to community. And a part of it is that, like, listening, like really listening. So for instance, I'll give you a for instance. I was doing this workshop and this woman said, I really want people to, she worked in a food bank place. I really want to take people on tours and I can't get people to go on tours. I said, okay, quit asking them to go on tours. She's like, but if they could see what we do, they'd be more invested. I said, well, that's your need, not their need. And
Right.
You're making an assumption. They may be perfectly happy with the level of investment they have.
Yeah.
And when they but if you listen, like, what do they want to do? How do they want to get more connected? Why, instead of saying like, oh, I would love to take you for a tour, say, like, you're asking the questions about how you got connected, what you love about the organization, how you want to get more connected. And then from there, if they say, I'd love to see the operation, absolutely, then take them on a tour. But if you listen, people will tell you what you need, what they need. If you just listen and put away your own agenda, put away, like this woman said, I have 11 ways of getting involved in my nonprofit.
I use the term always, it's not about you. It's about
right.
It's not,
and
what's in it for them.
Your deadline or your goal is not a reason for me to give. Right. My money is going to be good December 31st and January 1st. Right.
I call that the language of scarcity versus thriving.
Yeah. Yep.
When you talk about we need versus here's how you can help. And it's all content in the language, the narrative.
The energy of the words. Words matter. So their thoughts shape our words shape our reality. So I need to, I have to, I want to, I get to, I choose to, right? And so it's like, and if you're going to make a phone call and like, oh God, I got to call this person. Wait, hold on. How can I shift my thinking? I get to call this person.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh, and switching that energy before you pick up the phone. And I say, like, being really conscious of what you're bringing with you into that conversation, because energy speaks louder than words.
Absolutely.
And I love words. We often don't think. So I'll just tell you this, like, one of my clients, she's so funny. She's like, I rush. She's always feeling rushed. Well, whatever you put out, you get back, right? So she's like rushing. And I said, what if we kind of like give you like that calm confidence, right? Like let's settle into that. And one of the first things we talked about was not rushing into the building. She goes, I would run into that building like a dinosaur was chasing me. Like, just take a breath, right? Walk in, right? Start, like, walk in. There's time for everything. There's enough money. There's enough resources. There's enough energy. There's enough, and like whatever mantra you need to tell yourself to walk in, right? And start it like that, instead of like, because she was setting herself up for a day of rushing, right? Not being conscious of the energy that she was, putting out. And it's so funny. When you think about it, she's like, I'd run in there like a dinosaur is chasing me. So, like, okay, so I'm going to choose to walk, and operate at this pace, because that's what I want to create more of. Right. And so whatever I want to create more of, that's what I cultivate. And I love what you said about like oh, you need to do this, because when we say you need to do it or you have to do it, that's pushing.
Yeah.
And the more choice you give other people, the more likely they're going to choose what you want.
And they push back.
They push back. Yep.
Push back. If you push, they're going to react, just like you said, to your energy and respond to whatever it is you put in front of them. If you push, they push. So you want them to get excited, just as excited as you are, and have the same energy level. And it's all up to you to do that,
Right. And as soon as we start pushing and people get defensive, we've lost them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because in your brain, the way, when you get defensive and you can feel a reaction in your body, like your heart, your head, your eyes, your knees, whatever, when you feel that reaction in your body, then your brain's shutting down and you're really not capable of new information. So the job is to allow people to feel seen and heard and understood, because when they relax now and then they trust, now they're going to be open to what you have to say. So what I do is I flip the script. Instead of, oh, hey, let's talk about how awesome our nonprofit is. It's, tell me about you. What's going on?
Yeah.
What's happening with you? Because I can't meet your needs until I know what they are.
And
And
also
so
that
I'm,
interjects a personal interest. It shows
yeah.
them that you're interested in their personal well-being, which always brings them into the fold. They then feel welcome
And whether or not it's a fit, they will respect you and trust you to refer you on, right? Let's say, this is great. This just isn't for me. But then they run, you should talk to this organization because I really like what they're going to be happy to refer you on, because you didn't try to make them do something or make them
absolutely.
be something they weren't. And once this is just, and this is not in work, this is all through life, right? Like this is not, this is a whole operating system.
Yep.
Now, when I talk with my friends, I tell me what's going on.
Yep.
I'm listening for, I'm listening for what I call the opening, which is the need you have that I could fulfill. So instead of like, oh, here's 11 ways you can get involved. That's great, but that's for me, not you. Because now if I say, here's all the ways you can get involved, I'm putting the burden on that other person. And they're like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
But if I listen, they'll tell me.
Yeah.
If I
Absolutely.
listen, they will tell me.
Okay. So this has been wonderful. We're almost out of time, but
No.
I know. We're gonna have to do this again. But both of us are on an exciting event coming up in
Yes.
November. The Effective Leadership Toolkit, Nonprofit Leadership Toolkit.
Yeah.
They haven't quite given us the exact name yet, but what it is a great giveaway from some phenomenal consultants, including yourself.
Yes.
And so could you just describe real briefly what is the giveaway that you're doing?
Yeah. Well, and let me say first, this is such a cool event because all of us, there are all different nonprofit experts, and we're all kind of come together, and you can offer a bunch of freebies. It's a great way to learn something, and then also, hey, maybe there's some alignment there. Maybe you'd like to connect deeper with that person and the kind of work they do. And so what I have is it's my nonprofit leadership guide.
Okay.
And has 3 pieces to it. One is an ebook called Stop Sitting Back and Start Making Change. The other piece that is an exact template of a model of the conversation that I train people to have. So when I talk to you about like, oh, you know what I mean? Like listening and finding the opening and all that, it's like a step-by-step how to do that. So I'm excited to share that with people.
Perfect. And that's going to be running November 6th through the 26th of November. A
Yes.
good solid 3 weeks. And I'll be putting the links and everything in the podcast description. I'll be putting I'm going to tell them to come to the giveaway to grab your information.
That'd be great.
I know you also do the Influential Nonprofit podcast.
Yes.
What is the link to that?
You can just go to, the influentialnonprofit.com. You can go there. Yep. And I load up all the episodes. My website is courageouscommunication.com. I do weekly and I load up all the episodes onto my website, and you'll have to come on mine.
Absolutely. I'm going to put all of these links and connections and contact information. I'm sure if they go to those websites, if they want to talk to you further about your services and what you do, they can connect with you there. But this has been enlightening. I really love that we are in so much alignment and in sync with some of our thinking.
It is.
The energy.
And I love doing so because I met you because I signed up to do this event, and I get to meet all these new experts and consultants and coaches from all over the country.
That is absolutely, with me, I've had a podcast for many, many years, but I'm relaunching the Nonprofit Corner podcast. It has been a pleasure. All of the links and things will be in the description for those of you listening. I want to thank you for coming on the Nonprofit Corner podcast, and I hope to talk to you really soon.
Thank you.